In this video, I'm going to take this photo of a very kind of rusted, grungy truck. I'm going to add some texture to it and then finish it out with some stylized color effects. This is a great candidate for adding texture because the sky here is kind of a matte gray kind of tone, and texture absorbs really well to that type of image. So I'll go ahead and open this up into Edit. I'm going to go over to my Tone and Color panel, and I'm just going to click Auto. That seems to do a pretty good job of adding some brightness and contrast to that truck area. I'm also going to go down to the Structure slider. I'm just going to increase it slightly to bring out some of that detail in the truck. Now I'm going to go ahead and add my texture and start the blending process. So I'm going to click on the plus icon at the top and select this kind of cracked texture. This is actually a texture that I photographed on the truck, so it's kind of a good fit for this image. So I'll go ahead and click Add as Layer. Now the first thing I'm going to do is rotate it because I'd like to have this portion here with this blue splotch. I'd like to have that at the top. So I'm going to go over to my Transform tool, and then I'm just going to rotate the image twice and then click Apply. Next I'm going to go to the Layers panel, and I'm going to change this blending down to Darken. If you want, you can scroll over some of the other options to see if there's something else that you kind of think looks really cool. And there's definitely some good options there. For this example, I'm going to stick with Darken. I really kind of like the matte effect that it's adding kind of near the bottom here. But I don't want all of that texture to be on top of the truck, so I need to do some masking. The easiest way is to go down to the truck layer and then create a luminosity mask and then copy that mask over to the texture layer. So I'll go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to hide that texture layer. Then I'm going to go down to the truck layer and click on that mask icon to bring up those advanced options. I'll click Lumen to add a luminosity mask, and then I'll click View. My goal here is to mask it so the truck in the foreground area is hidden, and so that area in my mask needs to be black. It's already kind of going in that direction because it's really dark, and I just need to intensify it using the sliders below. So I'm going to take the Level slider, and I'll start moving the far left option to the right, and I'll just kind of keep pushing it until things get pretty dark. I'm getting some kind of dark spots at the top there, but that's okay because I can easily brush those out when I'm finished here with these sliders. I'm also going to go over to Window, and I'm going to see what happens, and that's not really doing a whole lot to the part that I want, and I don't want to use that side either. So I'm also going to take that Level slider on the right and move it over. So now I just need to address those black spots at the top, and I need to mask them so they're a lot more white. So I have the brush tool active. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Shift-X so that I am painting in. And I'm also going to drop my opacity down to about 50%. I'll reduce my brush size a little bit and start brushing. It seems to be just kind of removing all of it, and that's fine. So I'll just keep taking this down to the bottom, and I'll get rid of some of these power lines too. Now I'm going to copy and paste this mask so it's on that texture layer. So I still have that truck layer active. I'm going to click Copy to copy that mask. I'm going to click View so I can actually see my image. I'm going to make that top layer active, toggle the advanced masking options, and then click Paste. Now I need to go back down to that truck layer and delete that mask. So I'll click on the mask for that truck layer and then click Reset. Now I have that texture, and it's really only in the sky area of the image. So I'm going to go back up to that texture mask, and I'll make a few more adjustments here. First, I'm going to increase the feather a little bit because I want to see what that does. It seems to be kind of pushing it in the wrong direction. It's adding, if you can see, it's adding like a little bit of a halo there. So I'll keep that feather at 0 for now. But I'm going to reduce the density. And what this does, if I were to go all the way to 0, it's basically just blending that texture the way it was when there was no mask. But I'm going to put that density slider at about 60 So it is still being applied to the truck area, but it's not as intense as it was when there was no mask. Okay, I'm finished with that mask, and I still have that texture layer active. So what I'm going to do is make a few develop adjustments only to that texture layer. So I'm going to go down, and the first thing I'm going to do is drop the saturation of it a little bit. Just to kind of remove, I don't want the color completely gone, but I want it subdued a little bit so it's not quite as vivid as it was. I'm also going to increase the structure of the texture to really intensify those cracked areas. All right, now I'm going to take this into effects, the entire image into effects, to stylize it and add some different coloring effects to it. So up in the layers panel, I'm going to right click and I'm going to select new stamped layer. If you'd like, you can choose merge visible. That's just going to combine those existing layers into one layer. Next, I'll click on effects. I'm going to add a filter and I'm going to select vignette. I'll go ahead and add a subtle vignette. I'll toggle that on and off to see the result. That looks good. I'm going to add another filter. And this time I'm going to select sunshine. I'm going to choose that strong filter, and that's doing a really nice job of kind of adding a little bit more brightness to the image. But I am going to take the saturation and drop it down a little bit. I might go a little bit below 0, so I'm at like -8 there. I'll go ahead and hide that. I'm going to add one last filter, and this time I'm going to add a LUT. I just find the LUTs are a really great way to add a really cool color effect. And they have some pretty good ones here in their defaults. So I'll click on that category and select Vintage Matte. And then for the LUT itself, I'm going to choose Simple. I think this one fits really well with this image. I am going to drop the opacity down though, because it is pretty intense. So just in that like 60 to 70 range. Okay, lastly, everything looks great here in effects, but I think I'm going to jump back over to develop because I'd like to just add a little bit more brightness to the image. So I'm back in develop, and I'm just going to go down. I'm going to very slightly increase that exposure. And when I did that, it kind of made those really bright areas a little too bright. So I'm going to take the highlight slider and drop it down, and that helps out with those real white areas. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of contrast just to kind of offset those other adjustments that I just made. So that was kind of a fun texture edit. Feel free to play around with those practice files, and you can even use that texture in some of your own images. Go ahead and have some fun with it.